Hello students, in this video I am going to teach you the lateral view of skull bone, X-ray of lateral view of skull. So this is the plain X-ray lateral view of skull showing hard tissue and soft tissue shadows. How to read X-ray? This is the plain X-ray lateral view of skull showing hard tissue and soft tissue shadows. In hard tissue shadows, you can see the outer table, inner table, which are the parts of compact bone, and in between there is diploid, okay, which is a part of spongy bone. So outer table, inner table, in between there is diploid. These are the orbital plates, upper and lower orbital plates. This is the external occipital protuberance. This is mastoid region. This is the mastoid process. Okay, this is the mastoid region. This is the mastoid process, or you can say mastoid part of the temporal bone having the mastoid process, which is a nipple-like projection from the base of the skull. This is the base of skull. This is the base of skull. These are the upper teeth. These are the lower teeth. This is the ramus of the mandible. This is the base of the mandible. In between the ramus and base, there is the angle of the mandible. Okay, so this is the angle of mandible. Now, at the posterior end of the orbital plates, you can see one pointed projection, that is the enteroclinoid process. Behind the enteroclinoid process, there is a cup-shaped depression that is called as hypophyseal fossa or the pituitary fossa. So this is the hypophyseal fossa or the pituitary fossa. Now coming to the cervical vertebrae. This is the first cervical vertebra, which is the atlas, having anterior tubercle, the posterior tubercle. Next to atlas is the axis vertebra. This is the axis vertebra, having the prominent spinous process. This is the spinous process of axis vertebra. The next to axis there is third cervical vertebra, which is the typical one. So this is the body of third cervical vertebra, and this is the spinous process of the third cervical vertebra. And this is the fourth. Below the mandible, you can see one more radiopaque shadow, that is the hyoid bone. So this is the hyoid bone. So this is all about radiopaque, or you can say hard tissue shadows seen in lateral view of skull bone. Now coming to the soft tissue shadows. In soft tissue shadows, we mostly see the paranasal air sinuses. This is the frontal air sinus. Okay, this is the frontal air sinus. This is the maxillary air sinus, which is the largest paranasal air sinus. Below the hypophyseal fossa in the sphenoid bone, you can see the sphenoidal air sinus. This is the sphenoidal air sinus. This is the orbital cavity, and this is the nasal cavity. In between the orbital and nasal cavity, we can see the ethmoidal air sinuses. This is the ethmoidal air sinus. And here we can see one radiolucent shadow, that is the external acoustic meatus. So this is the external acoustic meatus. Okay, behind the external acoustic meatus, you get the mastoid process and mastoid air cells. Okay, so this is the mastoid part of the temporal bone, having honeycomb appearance of the mastoid air cells. So the mastoid air cells, you can see here nicely the honeycomb pattern of which is situated behind the external acoustic meatus. The external acoustic meatus is the honeycomb appearance of mastoid air cells, the mastoid process. The posterior end of the nasal cavity continue as the nasopharynx. This is the nasopharynx. Behind the oral cavity there is oropharynx. This is the oropharynx, and behind the larynx, the part of pharynx is called as laryngopharynx. So this is the laryngopharynx. Nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. So this is a soft tissue. These are the soft tissue shadows seen in lateral view of skull bone. Again, see the soft tissue shadows: the frontal ear sinus, the nasal cavity, the ethmoidal ear sinus, the orbital cavity, the sphenoidal ear sinus, the maxillary ear sinus, the nasopharynx, the oropharynx, and the laryngopharynx. And here the external acoustic meatus, and behind that the honeycomb pattern of mastoid air cells. So this is all about X-ray, plain X-ray lateral view of skull bone. Apart from AP and lateral view, two more types of X-ray are taken in the skull bone. That is the Waters view, which is also called as open mouth X-ray, and Schuller's view. Waters view is taken to visualize the paranasal air sinuses properly, and Schuller's view, which is an oblique, uh, uh, view. It is taken to visualize the mastoid air cells, mastoid process, and mastoid antrum properly. So Schuller's view is taken for mastoid air cells, and Waters view is taken for paranasal air sinuses. So this is all about X-ray radiology of head neck face. Thank you.